Hello YouTube, it's me Bergie and I'm here with my May wrap-up. Now, even though I had exams in the first half of this month, I was able to get to 5 books, which made me really proud. So I'm hoping because of this, the next couple of months will be just as great, if not better. But we'll see about that because the end of June is going to be busy for me. Well, actually, the beginning of June was busy for me as well because I've been packing and all of that. The end of June, I'll be traveling, graduating, going back home. So July at the very least should be better. June might be a little bit iffy, but I digress. Let's get into the statistics for my May reading. So, like I said, I read 5 books. For the reading level, 2 of these books were adults and 3 were middle grade. The medium in which I read them were 4 were in physical copies and 1 was an ebook that I bought on my Kindle. As for the genre, 2 were sci-fi novels and 3 were fantasy. And finally, for my rating overall, I gave 3 books a 4-star rating and 2 books a 5-star rating. So it was pretty good this month. I know last month I had a couple of 2 stars and a 3-star, I think. So April was more diverse than May. May I had a pretty good, solid reading month. The first book I read, I actually finished in April, but I had finished it after I had filmed my April wrap-up. And that was The Subtle Knife by Philip Pullman. This is the second book in his Dark Material series, so I'm not going to give you an actual summary, but the first book, which was called Northern Lights and I read in April, takes place in a world in which humans have animal companions, and when you're a child in this world, your animal companion can change different forms, but once you hit a certain age, your companion takes a specific form. And they call them daemons in it. So yeah, everybody in this world has a daemon that takes the form of some animal, whether it changes when they're a kid or stays the same when they become an adult. So in the first book, we followed Lyra, and we still do, for the most part, follow her in the second book, but I'm not gonna give too much away, so that way I don't spoil you. But yeah, so the first book was concerned with following Lyra and her search for information about Dust and also personal information about her family. Another important aspect that's not really spoilery for this series is the fact that it has religious undertones. It's sort of similar to the Chronicles of Narnia in that sense because it does have religious ties, but it is done in a very different way than the Chronicles of Narnia. And I'm not going to say one was better than the other because I thought they were both done very tastefully. So as for The Subtle Knife, I think I enjoyed this a lot more than I did the first one. I think I gave the first one a B rating, but this book, The Subtle Knife, I gave a B+. So it's slowly creeping up. So I guess that's a great segue into the next book that I read in May, and that was the 3rd book in his Dark Material series by Philip Pullman, titled The Amber Spyglass. Once more, I gave it a slightly higher rating. I gave it an A-, and I think I knew in between when I read the second book and this one that the series would become one of my new favorite series, I think. It's definitely up there. I need to reread it to make absolutely certain that it is a new favorite series, but I'm pretty sure it will be. So in this book, without getting spoilery, we see the growth of characters that we've met within the first 2 books, which was really nice. We weren't really introduced too much into new characters. It was basically just the wrapping up of what was already told. So it was tying loose ends, which is to be expected from the final book in a series. You would hope it would do that. And without, again, going into spoilers, that ending, if you have read this series, let me know your thoughts on that ending without giving too much detail. I might be doing a spoiler review on the entire series, I'm not sure yet, but oh my god, that ending. I loved it, but at the same time, I wanted more. I just wanted more. Like, the ending was fitting and it did nicely tie things up, but oh my god. I can't get into it now because I definitely give spoilers, but that ending tore my heart out of my body and crushed it a little bit while I was looking at it. It killed me. But yeah, I gave it an A-, and again, I think the series is a new favorite of mine. The 3rd book I read was quite different. It wasn't a fantasy, it wasn't a middle grade level book, and it was We by Yevgeny Zamyatin. This is a dystopian novel, and it is one of the dystopian novels that kind of solidified what a dystopian meant, or what dystopia meant. As well, it greatly influenced George Orwell's 1984, so it is quite an important dystopian novel. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what it was about, because I plan on doing a whole video concerning all of the dystopian novels that I've read, or at least the dystopian classical novels that I've read. So you can expect that, I think, within the next 2 months. I know that's a pain. I'm making you wait to see another video so I can tell you about it, but I feel like it would be much more fitting than me just giving random details to you right now. All you need to know is that I really did enjoy it. I would say it is one of my more favorite dystopians that I've ever read. Not necessarily the greatest, but it was really good. And if I read it again, I might enjoy it more, and it might get bumped up to a higher grade rating, which I gave it a B+, so it's really close to an A. If I reread it, maybe it could get bumped up to an A, but at this moment, it's just a B+, which is still very, very good, but not the best. And that's because with most classical dystopian novels, I do find it to read a little bit confusing, but I feel like there's a reason about that, and I'm gonna go into that in a later video again. I'm sorry, but yes. The fourth book I read was The Trials of Apollo, The Dark Prophecy by Rick Riordan. I have a non-spoiler review going up about my thoughts and reaction to this book tomorrow, so you can look for that if you want a little bit more detail. This is the second book in the Trials of Apollo series, which is part of the third series within a Greek mythology and ancient Greek and Roman mythology based series that Rick Riordan has. So you can't really go into this series without having read those other two series. I mean, you could if you really wanted to, but it makes a lot more sense to read those other two series, the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, than the Heroes of Olympus series before you read The Trials of Apollo. As for my thoughts, I'm enjoying it way more than the Magnus Chase series at this moment. That might be due to the fact that I prefer Greek mythology to Norse mythology, or it just might be the actual plot lines. I enjoyed the one for Trials of Apollo more than Magnus Chase, I don't know, but I do like the Trials of Apollo better at this point than Magnus Chase. However, I like it less than Percy Jackson and the Olympians, but obviously that one was the original series that started it all, so of course I would like that more. So I think it's right now at the same level as the Heroes of Olympus series, even though there were a lot of books within that series that I kind of didn't like as much. There were a lot of parts that I did really enjoy. So I think it's kind of the same here with the Trials of Apollo, although I do believe that the Trials of Apollo, with the next couple of books coming out, it might get bumped up to being my second favorite mythology series by Rick Riordan. So yeah, I rated this book an A-, I didn't tell you, so that's pretty good. Not the best for a Rick Riordan book, but it's still pretty good. And the final book that I read this month was Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Again, this is an adult dystopian novel, and it is a much more better known or well-known novel than We. Again, I will not go into too much detail about the actual story or the actual plot because I have a whole dystopian video coming up soon, sometime soon, so you can wait until then to see more about it. But I will tell you my thoughts on it again. On the one hand, I'm kind of hesitant to consider this book purely a dystopian novel because I feel like a lot of the dystopic elements take the backseat to the main plot line, which follows, I don't want to say it's more of a romance, but it has that kind of, I really don't know. It's really hard with this book. I want to say that it has another layer to it that is kind of focused on more rather than the dystopic elements of it. And because of that, I don't think it is one of my favorite dystopian novels. I gave it a B- rating overall. It's still good. I still really enjoyed it, and it is a dystopian novel. I really don't know how to classify it as anything else, but the dystopic elements, again, are kind of not the main focus for the majority of the book. It's more of like a background for what else is happening. But yeah, those are the books that I read in May. I'm hoping that at least until around the 18th, I should be good with reading, because after that I'll be busy nonstop, whether it be traveling or getting ready to graduate or whatever it is. But I'm off to a good start. I've started reading a book that is quite large, and it's been taking me a couple of days to read, but I'm hoping I'll be done with it soon, so that way I can start some other books that I want to get to, which you would have seen them mentioned in my latest library haul, which I'll have linked down below. That was a bit of a digression. I hope you enjoyed my May wrap-up. Let me know what you guys have read for the month of May, and if you have any suggestions about what I should read in the coming months, and if you have read any of the books I mentioned, what were your thoughts on them? So yeah, I'd like to know all of that. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.